We are live. Hello, everybody. I guess there's only one place to start, and that would be with the first part of the title there. You're going to see this in tomorrow morning's morning show. And if you want to see it before that, you can go check out our Twitter. Should be the first link down there in the description box. If you're not following us on Twitter, what are you doing? The Earth dodged a bullet today. The sun erupted about 1 trillion tons of plasma, maybe more. An enormous filament just ripped away. And it was absolutely fantastic to watch. It was every bit as gorgeous as the one from September 2012. I'd say at least top 10 CMEs I've ever watched as I'm tracking the sun, things like that. Again, it will be in the morning news tomorrow. Not going to forget that one. But if you want to watch that video of the sun erupting 1 trillion tons of plasma at Earth, and it's just barely going to miss Earth, right below the video, our Twitter, it's posted right there on the channel page. Like I said, it's going to miss Earth by about 35 degrees. What does that mean? You take the sun 360 degrees all the way around. Right at us would be 0, no miss. If it went directly off to the side, it would miss us by about 90 degrees. If it, take the front and the side and it cut it in half and went directly diagonal away from us, that'd be 45 degrees. It was a little closer than that, about a 35-degree miss. We may get a glancing blow from some of the wider ejected plasma, but the dense core of this filament eruption, it was absolutely fantastic, and it was very dense. This is not the kind of thing you want coming at Earth at all. The other thing I'm going to try to sneak in here before we start getting super chats is last night on Twitter and this morning in the morning show, we were saying, hey, we're in an earthquake watch. The Caribbean took a 6.2, and there was just a 6.8 in Argentina. Although they do like to downgrade things, don't they? Well, they haven't downgraded either one of those. 6.2 in the Caribbean and 6.8 in Argentina. That's pretty much what you expect to happen right there when we get these kind of earthquake watches due to not only solar eruptive activity, but the coronal holes. There's that coronal hole directly facing Earth right now. And geophysics, astrophysics, all kind of on point and putting on a bit of a show, if I don't mind saying so myself. If I can get another thing in here before we start getting to the super chats, 2 really interesting articles this morning. Really want to just go over the importance of those. The one on atmospheric dust, they say that we are up about 55% in atmospheric dust from about 150 years ago. And while there have been an increase in dust storms, not by 55%. A considerable fraction of that increase in the atmospheric dust is likely related to the fact that they notice more dust in the interstellar space or the interplanetary space of the solar system, and they notice more dust in the upper corona of the sun. This is coming with the galactic current sheet. So a little bit of a tidbit there, and kind of a double tidbit. They were saying how much that dust might be masking global warming. Forgetting their paradigm and all other things like it, this is one of the reasons why Earth is going to have a rapid descent into cold when the major solar blast happens and when the thickest dust-heavy portion of the galactic current sheet arrives. Dust blocks out the sun, reflects it back into space. It's not the most commonly known or discussed form of albedo, but it's a real one. Other than that, the paper that we saw in AGU was talking about pretty phenomenal effects on the ionosphere from a very tiny little solar wind disruption. They even say in the article, this simply cannot be ignored anymore. And I agree completely. A lot of things about how the sun affects Earth's atmosphere, specifically relating to climate, have got to stop being ignored. But the other thing is, when you look at their data, and if you look back at other space weather events, What happened? There's absolutely no rationale for why Earth's ionosphere was dinged so hard by such a tiny little solar wind disruption. And the only really good explanation is that, once again, as we've seen several times, Earth's magnetic field is leaving us more and more vulnerable. Earth's magnetic pole shift is underway and chugging along hard. See, we got our first chat here. Shannon, I sure appreciate you and Kat. Big hugs from the prairies of Kansas. Thank you very much. And by the way, there's another snowstorm coming to you, Kansas. It has started here. I don't like this. Although I got to say, while it is piling on the previous snowstorm here in Colorado Springs, I went down to the ranch this morning. We are setting up the big building that's going to not only serve as the office, but it's going to have the Observer's library. It's going to have the event center where we're going to have all the Observer events in the future. They got their framing up and everything looks amazing. And there was no snow down there. There's been snow here on the ground for so long, and there was no snow down on the ranch. The microclimate there is absolutely fantastic. If you have no idea what the ranch is, below the link to my Twitter down there should be the links to Observer Ranch. Still entertaining interest from those who want to get involved in any kind of different ways. Although, to be honest, we've had so many and we're already down the line with enough individuals that we're probably only looking at this time, accredited investors who want to be part of everything. And then in a couple of months, we'll be talking more about those who want to actually get involved in other ways. I see somebody commenting on the Yoo-Hoo shirt. Absolutely. I've had this for quite a while. It's a great shirt. Captain Ron, I've seen the playlist. How are we to be sure Earth flips back and not flips the same way as the last flip? There are a couple ways we can look at that. Specifically, the reason why they say they can find the magnetic pole positions where they are at the poles over and over again is because it flips and then flips back. But it's not just they find a magnetic pole. They find the north magnetic pole up there at the north and the south magnetic pole down there at the south time and time again. And so however this is happening, it's not flipping 90 and then flipping again 90. It's flipping and then flipping back. And don't forget, that was the math that was done by the Rand Corporation, which thankfully Major Maynard E. White stole from the Pentagon meetings and gave to his son Ken to put in the book World in Peril. Excellent question, but the math supports it, the paleo poles support it, etc. Denise Smith Patriot. Now that's a name. Always love seeing that. Good to see you again, by the way. Hello from Southeast Oklahoma. Love your t-shirt, Ben. Thank you. I love it too. I remember drinking Yoo-Hoo when I was a kid many moon ago. Yes. She didn't say many moon ago. I just did that. Thanks so much for what you do. You are greatly appreciated. And I also remember drinking Yoo-Hoo as a kid. I do not drink that anymore. I miss sugar and gluten, but not when I look in the mirror. Got an EMP shield for the pickup. Oof. Where can I get an effective lightning rod? So I have zero faith in the EMP shield. I'm very sorry. It's great against lightning. It would be great against a high altitude nuclear blast that sent the EMP downward. Induced electric current from the sun and geomagnetic storms comes directly through like this. I don't know if it's going to work. If you want to talk about a lightning rod, look up Tesla lightning protection patent. You'll know you found it when it looks like an umbrella. Pro tip right there. Prepared homestead. Oh, hey, buddy. What's going on? Same way on the EMP shield. Yeah. How does the average person who doesn't have millions of dollars prepare for this disaster? Do you think I'm a millionaire? Do you think I've got millions of dollars and I'm like building some like super facility? How did the ancients survive this? Tons of ancient cultures survived this. Don't be near a coastline. See if you can be at elevation if you can. If you can find a way to have underground protection at points, it's very helpful. Store food, water, seeds, and your Second Amendment. Give yourself the best chance you can. The Dash Savers. The North Pole is physically up north, but magnetically is the South Pole. Otherwise, the South. I get what you're saying, yes, but that is, I mean, could you imagine if I had to go into that every single time I talked about the magnetic poles? Yes, technically you are correct, but it's the North Magnetic Pole and the South Magnetic Pole rather than getting into the detailed physics of it. Let's not confuse people. I mean, can anybody out here say, even if you've read my books and watched the playlist, that you've got everything in this catastrophism field down pat? We don't need to make this any harder than it already is, but Dash Savers, you're not technically wrong from a physics perspective. I confuse enough people as it is, though. Hi, Stormy. How you doing? At some point, you should just tell me your name. Antimatter, but like spelled like auntie, like my Aunt Sally. That is a great name. Because you always say no fear, and I really, really appreciate it. Blessings to all. Blessings to all. Absolutely. No question about that. Blessings to you. I do miss sugar and pizza. Is the Texas Hill Country the safety border, or is all of Texas pretty much fair game? I would say virtually none of Texas is fair game. Texas is pretty low in elevation. Yes, there are some higher elevation areas out in the west, but not that high elevation, and just so close to the Gulf of Mexico, which is going to shoot north. You're in a better situation in West Texas than you are in Florida, grant you, but still. I would rather be a mile above the ocean. Jordan Rivers. No. Pizza's a main food group. It was for me back in the day. Times past, etc., etc. Good to see a lot of you guys here. Appreciate that. As a reminder, for those who are just jumping in, Earth dodged a bit of a bullet today. The sun, if you saw the morning show, we showed that little bit of a clip where it looked like that plasma filament was starting to lift. It ripped away like crazy. It was gorgeous. The bulk of it's going to miss Earth. We got very lucky. If you don't want to wait till tomorrow morning's news to see this utterly gorgeous, in my top 10 solar eruptions, first link in the description box is to Twitter. Check it out. Brian the Broken says, have you spoke with Randall Carlson? Not for about a year. If so, what were those conversations like? I had several. If you watched the playlist, you'd see I interviewed Randall Carlson. It went very well. He was very much on the same page about the sun and things like that. And then who knows what happened? I hear that in a recent podcast, he did mention that the sun was probably a major player in this. And so maybe I'll give him a ring again. We'll see. He was a very nice guy. Loquacious. Thank you, Andrea. Barbara, what bullet did we miss? I just got the notification you were on. You could go back and watch the beginning of the video, Barbara, but I guess I'll answer you again. That plasma filament from the morning news did rip away from the sun fantastically. It's just barely going to miss Earth in terms of the bulk plasma. Very dense. Got pretty lucky there. I may have missed this somewhere, but what are your thoughts on the Ozarks? Do you know about the Pensmore Estate supposed dumbs underneath? A couple things. Yeah, I'd say you missed that somewhere, Nick. We talk about this all the time. The Ozarks are not a good place to be. Between New Madrid, between the flooding, and between the fact that everybody thinks incorrectly that's where you're supposed to go, it might as well be a giant big city. You know, big cities are bad. The Ozarks would have been fantastic in the last disaster, the way the earth tilted. Not this time. Not this time. And DUMBs, deep underground military bases, are screwed. The mega quake comes at the low velocity zone. The deeper you are, the worse it's going to be. Those things are going to be crushed in on themselves. If they're lucky for a quick death, if they're unlucky, they're going to be covered with mud or flood. Couldn't give me $1 billion to go down in a dumb when the sun turns red. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate you. Finboy Slick, here's to financing your $1 million bunker. Yeah, if any of you guys win Powerball, I'm on Gaspé coastline, might be able to run up a mountain, hoping NB catches the brunt of it, but I don't know what those things are. But yeah, best of luck. Everybody's got to judge their local situation for what it is and see how it goes. Waynard1, hello again, buddy. Seeing you a lot. How long will the tilt over take? How do we know? North Pole to equator, 6,215 miles. Wave speed be about 259 if it's 1 day, 129 miles per hour if it's 2 days, 86 miles per hour if it's 3 days. Let's hope it takes at least 4 days. I'm thinking 1 day. About 1 day. That's not only in Rand Corporation's math, but it's what a lot of the ancient stories discuss as well. And then it takes about 6 or 7 days for the sloshing to finally subside back to the oceans being calm again. Sharon Baxter, thank you very much. Appreciate that. B-Brax, the teal pair. I like that guy. Are there any protections to prevent your home wiring catching fire during a major flare event? Lots of fire extinguishers. Unless you're going to build your home from scratch, no. Like in terms of like proofing the home you've got now, no. If you're building something completely out of hempcrete, which doesn't burn, and you're not going to have too many wood components it's attached to, in theory, you could run wire through there, and who cares if they melt? It's not going to do anything. I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I don't think as much of the EMP shield. I don't think it's going to work for a major solar disaster. Sorry. Barbara, no worries. I was happy to bring it up again. I'll probably do it again at the end of the show, too. You are greatly appreciated, by the way. Dystopian Lucidity. That's a name. Ben, thank you for helping me figure out that the sun influences my migraines. Oh, boy, does it. Lots of peer-reviewed literature in the scientific journals on that one. Helps you plan your day. Yeah. For those who have Weatherman's Guide to the Sun and are just kind of leafing around back and forth, probably should take some time to read Chapter 6. Just going to throw that out there. But yes, migraines are a big one. Don't forget to realize the oblong sphere will adjust to the new equator. Yes, indeed, but there's really no way of knowing exactly how that's going to play with the land rise, land sink, and other things like that. We may be 13 miles wider at the equator. The deepest ocean's only 4 miles. It's the Atlantic. And the deepest part of any ocean, the Mariana Trench, is only 7 miles. So, yes, there will be a lot of unexpected aspects to this. It's one of the reasons why I say being at the current equator might not be a great thing, because most of that area is going to sink back down. And yeah, it's not fun. I scrolled too far. I'm really good at that. Just want to say I love your t-shirts. Great style. Somebody should tell Kat that. Just a thank you for all the stuff you put up with. Hope you make it out your way. Same to you, Starshine. Appreciate it. Uninformed observer. Hello again. What is that? Is that a hippo running as fast as humanly possible? Or hippoli possible, as fast as hippoli possible? Whoa. 5 of you jumped in there all at once. Ralph, always good to see you. Hi, although we dodged it, will there be any magnetic effects like an after whoosh? I don't know about an after whoosh, but basically it's one of those ones where the core of the filament was really tight, and then there's like the wide CME burst around it. What we dodged was that tight core. I mean, on Soho, we can clearly see that it's going to miss Earth. It's possible some of the wider aspects could clip us, but we're talking about a glancing blow there. The fact that it's coming on the heels of the coronal hole stream that we are expecting, probably, or maybe with the coronal hole stream, means that, okay, maybe we get a slightly higher geomagnetic storm. Definitely nothing scary from this one. We definitely dodged the major bullet, and it was a bullet. 7.999 billion people have no idea how lucky we just got. Hey, Ben, anything on the Tampa Bay visit? We have, so if you are on the Observer Ranch, link below, email list, you may have gotten the update and seen that we have set Buffalo and we are looking at several others. We're going to try to do Tampa Bay, but a lot of it's just depending on, I mean, we're not trying to kill ourselves here. We're trying to find good venues, things that make everything easy for us. And so Tampa Bay is definitely something we're trying to work out, but we really haven't, we haven't started selling tickets for any of the events yet. Still about 4 months away from those. So what information are we leaving behind for our ancestors to find out what happened after the catastrophe? Well, we're just going to tell them at Observer Ranch, because we ain't going anywhere. But if you think you aren't going to make it, maybe start chiseling something in stone or finding a way to keep books. A lot of them. Rose Bliss, you probably already know this, but there was just a 6.8 in Argentina. Much appreciated, Rose. Yeah, it was one of the ways we started the show. Last night on Twitter and this morning in the morning news, we set an earthquake watch, had a 6.2 in the Caribbean and the 6.8 in Argentina. Rose, hopefully they don't downgrade that one and hide the severity of these correlations. I scrolled too far. Thanks, Ben, for all you do. You're very welcome, and thank you. Does the Earth mantle relocate after the flip? The Earth's mantle, it's a weird way of thinking about it, actually. I don't know if relocate's the right word. It's going to be heaving and plunging and breaking through and twisting, shifting a little bit. But, also don't forget, it's liquid and it's viscous. What's happening at the upper mantle isn't what's going to be happening at the transition zone, isn't what's going to be happening at the core mantle boundary. And that would be one of the lesser certain aspects in terms of what the specifics of those are going to be. Excellent question. Biggest problem with the mantle is the fact that it's going to have heaving and plunging. Any idea on how the areas near the New Madrid will fare? Yeah, they will fail. RT, you must have just jumped in after I was talking about New Madrid and the Ozarks a bit ago. That's going to be devastating, not only from the earthquake, but the Gulf of Mexico is going to run right through the area. It's going to sink. That's one of the top vulnerable locations for sinking. And so not where I would choose to be at all. Longtime viewer, I appreciate what you're doing here. Would you have any insight on what might happen to the coast of Lake Superior in the case of a solar event? Also, should there be any concern in the northwest corner of Minnesota? So Lake Superior will slosh when the Earth goes like that, just like the oceans. It won't be the solar event that causes that. In this part of the world, I always have the same advice. Don't be in one of the slosh areas, which is directly north and south of the Great Lakes. Don't be in one of the big cities Like Minneapolis, not a good place to be. Even Duluth, probably not a great place to be. The sun could take out power years before the main event. Can you survive those winters without electricity? And how are you going to do that? That's your main concern in that part of the world. Rick Schultz, thank you very much. Matt says, thanks for all you do. What are your thoughts on Middle Tennessee, just west of Nashville? How just west of Nashville? Like a mile? Nashville's, you never want to be anywhere near a big city. Anywhere near a big city. And in that part of the world, yeah, the waves are going to get there. You're going to want to have something that floats. It's the best advice I can give you. After the big event, will the magnetic field return quickly? Yes. Or take as long to recover as it is weakening? No, it'll recover very quickly. Very, very quickly. All the evidence suggests that in the past. Not only the fact that they described pretty much a golden age after the last one, but the solar micronova probably is going to, I mean, there's no question it will use the LLSVPs to induce directly down into the core. And while creating a geomagnetic jerk, it should also juice us back up pretty good for the next 12,000 years. Good question, though. Kale says, hey, Ben, longtime sub here. Question, have you come across any significance of the phi ratio in your research? The electric universe phi is all over the place. Does it appear in solar activity? Most important thing I've got in terms of phi is the phi angle of the solar wind, but that's not exactly what you're talking about. I am familiar with what you're describing. It's significant in terms of understanding some of the big scale concepts, although not necessarily needed to understand them qualitatively. I don't know necessarily if it appears in solar activity or not, but there's if you're interested in the subject, you're doing research, there's absolutely legitimacy to it. RKTUL123, thank you very much. Sorry if I'm looking down here like I'm getting earthquake notifications. They're smaller though, don't worry. Lorianne, that's funny, isn't it? I get asked all the time, Ben, how are you going to preserve knowledge and tell the people and tell the future generations? I'm like, we're just going to tell them. We're just going to tell them what happened. But yeah, that is funny. Some people don't think it's funny. I think it's hilarious. What if this is just a galactic current sheet changing polarity and Earth simply changes direction of spin like ancient text describes the sun rising in the west? Ooh, that's not what they describe at all. You can have the sun rising in the wrong place in several parts of Earth. You can have a long night in several places on Earth without changing your direction of spin. All you have to do is have a tilt. Grab a globe, do it yourself, and realize, wait a minute, we don't have to stop and go the other way. That's a common misconception, and that's not what happens. That and galactic magnetic polarity changes wouldn't do that. Terry, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate that. Oh, and I scrolled too far. I'm bad at this. Saw a video on a catastrophist book says the planet will spin rapidly and a wave miles high will wipe everything out. No escape. Any truth here? Mike, I don't suppose you're talking about the Adam and Eve story. Approximately 1,000 people in the world knew about that book. And then I did an expose on it in 2018. All the videos you're seeing on YouTube right now talking about that book got that from us. That's where Jimmy Corsetti from Bright Insight got it. He's actually one of the ones who helped make that video go viral. Chan Thomas, Adam and Eve story is far too extreme. He also gets the direction of the wave incorrect. He gets the new pole positions correct, but somehow never actually thought to actually put them there on a globe and see how that would make the waves go. He describes the last wave when we tilted the other way. But no, it will not be miles high and wipe out everything. Absolutely not. It's going to be a slow creep up like this. You would do well to read Next End of the World, link below, by the way. Talks about that and, well, has answers to your next 1,000 questions. Promise. Thoughts on the Cascadia fault line? Not good. Before the major event, thoughts on how far up the Columbia River the water makes it? You know, in terms of like during the main event when there's the mega quake all over the world, yeah, it's toast. Before then, that's anybody's guess, really. I've seen models about how far the water could make it up the Columbia River. None of them agree with one another, and I have no idea how correct they are, to be honest with you. A lot of it would depend on whether it's a strike slip or a mega thrust. A lot of it would depend on how far offshore it was. Where the Columbia River meets the ocean. Is it north, south? There's too many variables in that one to answer your question quantitatively. What are you doing living there anyway, buddy? Not where I would choose to be. All right, scrolling. Besides the cold, how does Aroostook, northern Maine, 1,000 feet up look for survival? Last time, the Pacific broke through the Rockies. The Atlantic is attacking this time. The Appalachians will pose no challenge. And you have to figure out how to survive winters there without any electricity. And there's too many people in New England. Even if you live in a relatively remote part of it and you think, hey, I'm kind of in a remote part of New England, come out here. We'll show you what remote is out here in the West. There are places you can literally drive at 80 miles an hour for an hour and see nothing. Nothing. These parts of the world are not the same. That, and because of where Maine is at its high geomagnetic latitude, you'll be one of the first places in the country to lose power. If willing to surrender any weapons and goods at contact, would it be possible to join you folks after the shift, assuming you survive? If you showed up with a year's worth of supplies, maybe, but you're not going to get here. Not unless you live 5 miles away. Travel's not going to be happening. Highways, getting out of cities, no. Nobody's traveling anywhere. Now, months later, years later, when there's majority of people have begun their next journey, yeah, then okay, maybe. But that means you got to survive where you are for quite some time. Ricardo, watch the playlist. That's funny. Hopefully nobody's still playing the drinking game based on how many times I say watch the playlist. Hopefully. Nick says, thank you for all you do. Is there any space left up at the ranch? If you're serious, yes, take a look at the links below the video. Send us an email. As I mentioned at the start of the show, we are at this point, because there's been so much interest, pretty much only looking for accredited investors who not only want to be a part of the ranch, but they all want to be a part of the ranch, be our business partners here in the time we have left. So any of you, if that applies to you, you can feel free to send a link, send an email at the link below, the Observer Ranch ones. But yeah, most of us are not accredited investors. I wasn't until just a couple of years ago. If I win the lottery, we will collaborate on a shelter. How does Boise, Idaho look? Not terrible, except you don't want to be in a big city. Boise counts as a big city. Will the floodwaters reach Boise? No, but it's a big city. And no, just going to the suburbs or the rural areas just outside of a big city doesn't count as getting out of a big city. Not even close. I hope you win the lottery, though. Brent, thank you very much. Or is that, yeah, Brent, thank you very much. Ellie, as a 67-year-old single woman, hope I'm brave enough to leave early so my kids and grandkids might survive a little longer. Right on. Heart is with you, and I hear that quite a bit. The rabbit hole says the aliens must have figured out a tech that is safe from the flares. If I were them, I'd park my UFO next to Earth and break out the popcorn. After the way Earth has been behaving recently, I wouldn't blame them. Especially if all they have up there is cable. If they're just like intercepting CNN signal, they're probably like, do you think we should go help them? And everyone's like, no, just let them go. Yeah, I took a shot at CNN. I bought whiskey specific for the game. That's really funny. It's really funny. In that case, watch the playlist. I live in Manhattan. Am I a sitting duck? I mean, you might as well live inside of a volcano. You've got about the same chance living in the middle of Manhattan as you do living in a volcano. I noticed a potential safe zone in the Kentucky, West Virginia area in your videos. Would you recommend that for people on the East Coast? No. So you probably missed the part where I said it's a quasi-safe zone. Here's why. The Atlantic is going to break through. It's going to break through. So in order to survive, you have to do one of two things. You either have to float away, hard to take all your supplies, and you never know where you're going to end up. Or you have to run up to the very tippy tops of the mountains, which could stay dry. But if that's the case, it's not like you can drag all of your supplies up there too. What happens when the water recedes? You're going to go back down to nothing. None of your preps are going to be there. It's a quasi-safe zone in that there are ways to it's a quasi-safe zone because there are conceivable ways to survive there. No good ones. No good ones. And by the way, I can tell the storm is actually starting to mess with the internet here. So if that happens, that'll be really frustrating. I mean, it might happen. We'll see. We've been subs to 30,000. Ooh, you've been here a while. Lastly, am I familiar with the Oera Linda sheds possible light on humanity after Atlan sank? I am not. Promise I will look at that. Let me write that down. I'll look into that. This is Joanna Fourier. Thank you very much. Oh, I scrolled too far. Tommy says, I wish I had built my hempcrete yurt. Hempcrete. Aircrete is not terrible either. Again, I would rather have a concrete bunker than live in Manhattan, but also concrete as good as hempcrete or aircrete. Shannon says, one last question. Are there people that your friend SO community can reach out to encourage more interviews? I know I would love to see you on Rogan. You know, I don't know who you'd ask. There's 1,000 different podcasters. There's radio shows. I mean, I get invites a lot. I'm probably going to be doing, an interview a week here for at least the next couple of months to basically get that set up. I'm also kind of busy. Get out there as much as I can. Graham Hancock believes we are a species with amnesia. Do I think when it takes all that voltage, it will affect our electric brains? I don't think that that's the reason why some of the stuff isn't known, especially since the Indian stories, and I don't mean Native American, I mean India, they very descriptively describe what happened. Some of the Native Americans describe what happened. Aboriginals have stories of what happened. I think it's just that when you're playing a 12,000-year game of telephone, have you ever played telephone where like you whisper in one person's ear, then they whisper in the next person? You do it with 10 people and the message is screwed up by the time it gets back to you. What happens over generations in 12,000 years? I think that's more what's caused us to not have all the facts. That and the fact that the facts get obscured when scientists discover them. Does ICF offer any additional benefits as a building material? I don't know what ICF is. I have absolutely no idea. I'm an astrophysicist, not an architect or engineer. I got very, very smart people involved to help me with this. I apologize. I don't have any idea what that is. Get an entropy account better for soup chats. I don't know what entropy is. What an entropy account? I have no idea what that is. And I like my super chats the way they are. By break the Appalachian Mountains, do you mean the entire ridge will be underwater? No. You have been on a mountain peak. When things start shifting, Spencer, watch people running up towards you, because there will be. There will be. I hope it's one of the high mountain peaks. Let me put it that way. Two keeps telling my connection is unstable. Your connection's unstable. Unstable. Jackass. That does tend to happen here whenever we get storms like this. What can you do? Next. Terry says, any correlation between Grand Canyon and Mariana Trench as in a repeating sort of the Great Disaster? I'm thinking yes. Obviously, the entire world of geology is against that notion, right? But I would put Valles Marineris on Mars as well. And I'd say there's a good chance these are dark discharges. Although separate events. Only one is made every time. Corey Gibson, you're greatly appreciated. Thank you. Bobby Tectal Bliss, Ben was watching Y-Files, tried to tell him about you. Super Chat would not let me use your name. You are onto the truth for sure. Yeah, censorship, shadow banning, throttling. I'm noticing it everywhere except Twitter. Link to Twitter is below the video. You should be following us there. We have a lot of fun. I scrolled too far again. There we go. Squatch and Marley. Full name. Thank you very much. Bombray. Thank you very much. Wow, I haven't seen that emoji. What's that one? That an old school like Nintendo controller? Does the little Earth picture in front of the sun show Earth's position? No, it is just a scale for size comparison, such that if you were to take the Earth and put it on the surface of the sun, that's how big the Earth would look compared to all the other surface features. It does not show where Earth is. That satellite is in Earth orbit. Earth is, direct center of the sun, direct center. That's where Earth is. Good question, though. Center of the sun, direct center, that's where Earth is. Good question, though. A lot of people have that one. Could the Rockies have funneled the water so it went further? Could all the hills in the east act like sandpaper to the tsunami so as to not go as far? No. I would love that to be the case. If that was the case, it would be a much better situation, but water doesn't do that. Water just doesn't do that. The Atlantic is deeper. It doesn't have as high to climb with the Appalachians, and it's got the Gulf of Mexico on the other side. A lot of people don't know that. The Pacific's bigger, but the Atlantic's deeper. Do you know that? Not good if you live in Manhattan. The opposite of entropy is Christian creativity, and that's what sustains creation. I did know that. What I was asking about entropy before was there's some kind of like chat system one can use called entropy, and I don't know what that one is. I know what the other entropy is, but thank you, Joseph. I greatly appreciate that. I'm not being sarcastic. I do appreciate that. Giggity. Willie, no, the Pacific is not deeper on average. The Mariana Trench is the deepest point on Earth, but it's a tiny little thing. You want to talk about the average depth, the Atlantic. It's the Atlantic. The Victory 66 vote says October 2046. What say you? Two things. One, there is no I and no H in his name. It is VOGT. Second, watch the playlist. Watch the playlist. Watch the playlist. I've interviewed him. I talk about the differences between he and I several times. Do thy homework, young Padawan. Or old Padawan. I don't know how old you are, but it's been discussed several times. Mike Washir, if that's how you say your name, it's a good feeling. Me versus the comment section of 1,000, 3,000 people. Ben, does the observer community have any plans to create a large stone object with carved information on it so the future will remember stuff? No. Again, we're just going to tell them and tell them to tell stories. We're just going to tell them. We have no plans on going anywhere. Knucking Futz. 700 foot is the safe water line. I don't know where you're getting that. My answer is no. But also, the safe from the water line is different in every part of the world. No two places have the same. And people ask me all the time, how high up do I need to be? It's like, I don't know. How much marijuana are you smoking? Oh, Stormy, you didn't have to do that. He was just asking. My goodness, look at all these questions. Selling home, headed to Colorado, considered Pagosa Springs, the mother spring. Not terrible. Looking at Divide, Woodland Park, and E period. I don't know. And East, I guess, is what you mean. I don't understand why people are afraid of like the prisons things. All right. Do you have any idea how many times prisons lose power every summer during thunderstorms? Do you think that the protocol when the power goes out is, oh, all of the cells unlock? No. Every individual cell, the one in that division, and then the ones for the prison itself all go into lockdown. Those are the most unfortunate individuals. Do not be in jail when the sun takes out power. You're never coming out. You're never coming out. It's going to be slow, boring, and terrible. Best luck you have is the guards know what's up and put you out of your misery. What did you think happened when the power went out at a prison? When they were making the Panama Canal, they have to be careful because of the difference between the Pacific and the Atlantic. Sort of, yeah. That's what locks are for, though. And they did a great job. They did it. That's one of the most incredible feats of engineering. I'd put that close to the pyramids. As an ROV pilot, subsea robotics pilot, that's cool. The amount of silt and sediment that will be coming with the wave is unfathomable. You are correct, the Dash Savers. It will be mountains of sediment, not just water. This needs to be represented. Not only mountains of sediment, but then trees and sand and people and houses and animals. If you are in an area that can get flooded, do not go in a deep underground bunker. It's the worst idea I could imagine. You're never coming out. You will be buried. Brutally buried. Thank you, Dash Savers. Always good to bring up that point that it's not just water coming. Can they make a Faraday roof? Who is they? I don't know. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. I don't know if it's going to work. Um, in the big event, unless you're Faraday, like the components, the wires, the Faraday cage are like this thick, it's just going to melt anyway. What are you hoping to save? You hoping to save some electronics for afterwards when there's no power, no internet? We're planning for pre-industrial society, put it that way. Can I elaborate on the Great Lakes sloshing? How intense? Cities that might be inundated. Anything close enough. The initial inertial push will be northward, and then they will slosh back southward pretty hard. Chicago, Detroit, Syracuse. In the initial wave, Ottawa, Toronto. Wouldn't want to be in any of those areas. We still got people asking, is it going to be a mile high? Like, do these people, like, did they like just jump into the call and like weren't watching the beginning of it? Maybe, I don't know. No, the waves will not be a mile high. What will the tilt feel like? A roller coaster? Like the earth is twisting back and forth like a drunkard. Probably enough to make you fall over if you're not too sure-footed. Hi, Ben. I live in eastern Spain. I'm assuming the Mediterranean will slosh back, but will the Atlantic traverse all of Spain? The Atlantic and the Mediterranean pose a considerable challenge, especially for Western Europe. There's just no getting around it. Not to mention that all of the volcanic islands should be going off there. And so they're going to even push more water to the east towards Europe, towards Africa. Hope you're at one of the highest elevation parts of the country there, or you have something that floats. We live on the backside of the Continental Divide in Winter Park. I don't know where Winter Park is. Planning on much colder and longer days. Good thing we're used to it. Right on. I'll tell you this. An attitude like that is worth a lot more than people realize. A lot more than people realize. A lot. If this isn't straight, like, honestly, I don't care what you think about Andrew Tate. If you don't have that mindset when it comes to this disaster, don't even try. Don't even try. If you don't feel like you are literally God walking on this earth and nothing can touch you, and no, I don't mean to be blasphemous. Put your Bible down. I'm a Christian too. Chill. You get what I'm saying. If you don't have like an Andrew Tate level of confidence, don't even try. Just enjoy your time the best you got. Have I ever looked at a Texas soil map, flood evidence? Have you ever seen my video on the Texas rock wall? Might be a good idea to watch the playlist. Texas is in trouble this time. Texas is in trouble. Missed the start. Did we dodge the sun's blast today? Yes, we did. Yes, we did, barely. If you want to watch that blast, it's on my Twitter. First link in the description box. It will, of course, be in the morning show tomorrow as well. I scrolled too far. 3 in a row. Rabbit Hole says, as of now, it looks like I will die in the sloshback. My soul will observe from on high. I may even come back as one of the future children. You're welcome at the ranch if you do, buddy. What would the effects on all lithium batteries in circulation? This is rough. Yeah, fire departments have to use thousands of gallons of water to put out a single electric car fire. I do like Elon Musk. I don't think he's right about everything. I don't like his Neuralink thing. I love what he's done for Twitter. I do think he is a brilliant businessman. But these things are going to be atrocious. They are going to light up like firecrackers everywhere. Luckily, the ocean will be coming to put them out. How safe is Florence, Canyon City area outside of those areas by 5 miles? Well, downtown Canyon City. I don't know if you've been in downtown Canyon City. I mean, I wouldn't get an apartment there. Um, but in general, that area is pretty darn good. It's in the New Valley of the Sun. It's in Observerville. I think I've only talked about Observerville once. Observerville is basically the area within the New Valley of the Sun that's pretty close to the ranch. In addition to there being several individuals at the ranch, observers are moving around the ranch like crazy. We're gonna have to like get flags or something so like we show everyone this is our land after this all goes down. Don't you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. Yeah, Bradley Smith, hello. Trying to get the family toward the New Valley of the Sun. I'm an old soul with many primitive talents. First found your daily updates on Live Leak. Does that still exist? No, and that was not me. Got me hooked in 2011. Nah, that was not me. But I'm glad you're here. Thank you for all of this. Might do a personal call in the future. Love to have you. I don't know if I put the link to our one-on-one calls. You know, you guys can book a one-on-one call with me to talk about this stuff. I don't know if I have any spots open left for January, and I have to set February's schedule. But I think the link is down below. If not, it's in every morning news video. Scrolling. Enhance. Do you practice the Wim Hof method? Not really so much anymore, although I have and I know how to do it. I'll probably start doing it a little more. I'm Subcoder. Oh, that's Subcoder. What's up, buddy? I noticed some effects pretty fast. Right now, I have just too many other things on my mind. Too much going on, too many papers, too many videos, too many children. Not really, but in another way, yes, too many children. Is what it is. But yeah, I imagine, like, let's say the sun takes out power and we've got 10 years to the micronova. Yeah, I'm going to be practicing like crazy. Greg Peterson, thank you very much. Thank you for the comment, Subcoder, by the way. Really appreciate that. Lorene Brown, and the Nintendo is back. I like it. Big fan. Probably going to cap it right here at the top of the hour. Take me and my Yoo-Hoo shirt downstairs and eat a steak. I do miss sugar and gluten, but not really. All right, so last notes. Remember, if you don't want to wait to the morning show to see that trillion tons of plasma the sun just exploded, follow us on Twitter. It's on the page right there. If you are interested in getting involved at Observer Ranch, again, there will be lots of opportunities over the coming months and years. At this point, it would really just be for those who want to be a part of the ranch more permanently and also want to be our business partner, accredited investors only. Send us an email down there at those. You can find our books and the playlist in those links as well. And yeah, thank goodness we dodged that bullet today. I'll see you in the morning for the daily show. Be safe, everyone.